I'm trying to stay upbeat and positive.
Hope springs eternal.
And and I want to be respectful because I know that the way it's shaken down, there 51% of the country voted another way than how it went, and we have elections in our country that are built on a certain way, and they have been forever. It's not a shock to anybody, but I think what's clear is that we're a country divided, and
which is, I think, a very disturbing thing to people this morning. And
yes.
I've had several encounters this morning. I was in 7-Eleven, and a gentleman that works there from Sri Lanka, when I saw the downcast look on his face, I said, "How are you?" And he said, "I'm devastated." And he said, "I have plans to bring my mother here. I don't know what it means." And there are a lot of people, for whatever reason, have an intense anxiety this morning.
Yeah.
Going
well,
on.
let's face it. Everybody's been having anxiety for weeks and months, and I think there's a lot of question marks. I'm going to speak for myself as an autism mom. And as somebody who is concerned about the autism community and services, because I know what a difference services made for me, and I know how hard everybody has fought in the last 5 years to get services. And I really believe that, based on it's like a shock to me, because there was always the possibility that either side could win. There was always the possibility that the House and the Senate could go one way. I just don't think that we really talked about if all of that happened, because I don't think anybody saw that. And there will be fallout from that, and it will directly affect the autism community.
Yeah, once again, and kudos to you for being involved in working on Hillary Clinton's disability plan and autism plan, which was comprehensive, which provided for so many things.
Well, and I want to look. We keep a stiff upper lip. This is what we do. We know as autism moms, everything doesn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. But I will tell you that I did put in some time helping a lot of people to make a lot of things that I thought, ooh, we're going to get someplace.
Yeah.
And today, I'm not saying that we're not going to get there. I just don't know.
Right.
I just don't know.
Right.
And I'm just going to have to live with that uncomfortable, and we're just going to have to all work.
And maybe, people weren't informed enough about her autism plan that needed to be in our community, because I found a lot of people didn't know about her plan. And that's in the past, and we have to look ahead.
That's right.
And we've actually got a great guest today. We've got two great guests. We've got Vince Redmond, who is always with us every month, master.
He's a licensed marriage and family therapist.
And
I need one of those today.
Yes, and can talk about some difficult times coming up for our kids.
Yes.
The holidays.
Yep.
Today is Wyatt's birthday. He's 15. I want to touch on that a little bit later. And we have Kathy Gott here.
Yeah.
And Kathy is a real autism warrior mom, pioneer in our community. And she's now the president of Education Spectrum, Inc. And really exciting things. You may have known of her from her son Danny and Danny's Farm, which was a wonderful program.
Amazing.
And we're going to talk to her about this very issue of services and falling off that
especially
cliff.
Transitioning services,
yes,
going from being a school system to, as you said, falling off the cliff.
Yeah, and let me tell you, folks, I never saw this day coming at 15 and being in 9th grade in high school. And I know that in a split second, it's going to be 18, and then it's going to be 21.
Yep. Oh, man.
So these are whether your child is 2 or whether they are 18 and you're listening today, very important things to be aware of, right?
Absolutely. Okay. We've got a couple of news stories. Do we want to address those really quickly before we bring Kathy in?
Yeah.
Really quickly. Okay. And I was thinking of you particularly for this one. The headline is Little Sister Defends Her Brother with Autism After Student Called Him Weird.
Were you thinking of me with David?
I totally was thinking of you.
My younger brother had Down syndrome and lived with my family until he died, and I helped raise him. And so I can relate to this one.
Absolutely. So Lex Camilleri, I'm sure I slaughtered that, took a letter to the school's student council and read it out loud to her class. She has a brother who is on the autism spectrum, and she's 6 years old, and she just could not stand by when somebody called him weird. Her mother, Sophie, was informed of the letter by a teacher who approached her after school. That's when she posted it to Facebook, and it's been going viral everywhere. You guys have a chance to read it. In the note, she said, on Monday, I felt very sad because a girl in my class said that my brother was weird. My brother has autism and is not weird. I would like it if we could learn about all disabilities in school so that everybody understands that some people are different, but we should all be treated the same.
Yeah. The mom said that her brother was older than her. It's all she's ever known. She's only known autism. She doesn't see it as different. And she's lived and breathed it from the beginning. That's just how it is, which just reminds me of a moment last night when I was talking to my son and I said, why is today important? And I said, who's being elected? And he said, the president. And I said, what kind of president? And he said, the first woman president. Mm-hmm. And then I said, and who was what is special about Barack Obama? And he said, he's Barack Obama. And I said, but what's special about him? What's the color of his skin? He said, his skin is dark tan. It wasn't he's black. It wasn't he's the first. It's just he has dark skin, tan skin. That's the difference.
Well, sometimes having a quote-unquote social deficit, which means that you don't understand the social rules, means that you actually know the truth, that you haven't been force-fed the pile of El Toro poo-poo that goes around, right? Sometimes our kids have it exactly right, and it's us that because we subscribe to these things that have the real deficit. Let's be honest about that. Okay, other story here. Paradise Valley Resort offers a new option for adults with autism.
This is Billings, Montana, I think it?
Eric's Ranch, it's an amazing place, 7,500 square foot home. And because the folks who own this and run this have a child who was transitioning and that they didn't know what to do with him, they saw a need. And so they have created a very unique program where it's a ranch that people can go to, and they have kids who live there and who have the opportunity to work there.
Yes,
which is amazing.
So he's their son, Eric, is now 25, and obviously this is something that they felt necessity is the mother of invention, and it says that the residents. Members are moderate to high functioning. Yearly fees run just north of $30,000. That includes rent, utilities, 2 meals a day, transportation, social activities like hiking and biking. Members may also work at the resort and can earn up to $15,000 to help pay for the program. So, this is one such program. Clearly, we need many of these.
But I love this because this paves the way. I love that the jobs that they place them in are according to their interests, that they can be concierge, chefs, tour guides, and lead activities such as horseback rides. And what I love is that they talk about the fact that the guests so enjoy the interaction that they're having with these young people. And I just think this is a vision for all of us of something that can be. So hope, hope, hope. Now, but we also, before we bring in our guests, we want to mention that there is a grant phase right now for Autism Speaks. They're going to be giving away 685 iPad Airs. This is a program that is funded by proceeds. GameStop had an April in-store donation campaign, and they have enough. Those of you who went to GameStop and you gave $1 here, $1 there, they have enough to pay for 685 iPad Airs. They're going to folks who are financially disadvantaged with autism, and the application process is open now. It opens open on Monday. It is only open until the 11th. So you need to get right on this. There is a link at some point today. Samantha will have that up on our Facebook, but you can also search Autism Speaks iPad Air grant. The applications must be submitted by the person with autism or an immediate family member of the person with autism or a licensed social worker or therapist. It's called the Technology Grant. The review committee will review the applications and select the iPad award recipients. All applicants selected to receive the iPad Air will be contacted by December 15th. If selected, the iPad will be shipped via UPS directly to the address provided on the application, so make sure you put the application address that you want. There is a place to go if you have questions. It's iPads@autismspeaks.org. Please note that emails will take up to 12 hours to receive a response. So you really don't have a whole lot of time for questions. Just fill out the grant application. And, you know, I always say if there's an opportunity to talk about what your circumstances are, take it.
Right. And I just want to remind everyone, as Executive Director of Act Today, and Shannon, you as a board member, that we have an assisted technology program, and we give out iPads as well. So you can go on the Act Today website to learn more about our program.
There you go. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Kathy Gott is here with us, and we're really excited that she's going to be here. And don't forget that Vince Redmond is going to be with us a little bit later on, so that we don't take up drinking.
Yeah.
And we're keeping our sense of humor.
Yeah.
All right, Kathy Gott, amazing, amazing woman and amazing mom, going to be with us right after these messages. Stick with us.
It's every parent's desire for their child to have a great start in life. Yet there is a condition affecting more children's lives than pediatric cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Autism strikes 1 in every 150 children.
Today, 1 in 110 kids in the U.S. will be diagnosed with autism. That is a huge jump from 30 years ago when it was 1 in 30,000.
Startling new report finds the number of children with autism is skyrocketing. The Centers for Disease Control estimates 1 in 68 children has a form of autism. Now that's a 30% increase in just 2 years.
Well, a lot of the children and all the accomplishments over the last 20 years, I'm thrilled.
I think what kept me was the feeling that, you know, I would have a parent come to my office late at night at UCLA and just fall apart. And this is a long time ago. There were much less back then in terms of services and knowledge and so on. And I would just sit with the family and the parents and walk them through and try to take away some of their fears, you know. And at that point I realized, I think the thing that's actually most important to me is that process. I mean, thank God that I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have so many incredible clinicians join me along the way and just develop CARD in such an amazing, magnificent way. That I could, you know, for me it was more really about how can I help the families? What can I do for the moms, the dads, you know? It is just, and I feel like, you know, there's no way I would ever really know because I haven't had my own child go through this, but I've experienced it with people a lot of times.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm in first grade all by myself. My teachers are so fabulous. I like to read books. I like to go to my friends' birthday parties. I like to invite my friends to my birthday parties. I once had a sleepover with a friend. I like to have play dates with my friend. I'm the best reader in my class. I like to go to the library. I like to read different series of books. And here's how I learned to do all these things. By my card friends and Dr. Grant Pichet. Thank you, card friends and Dr. Grant Pichet.
All right.
Okay, so here we are with Kathy. Thanks for joining our chaotic morning.
Happy to be here. Wouldn't be any different than the rest of my life.
I know, isn't it the truth?
Yes.
Thank God, as autism moms, we get that, right?
We get it. Don't
Chaos
sweat
is
the little
just
stuff.
chaos is just part of the plan. Kathy, you're currently the president of Education Spectrum Inc. Tell us what that is.
Well, when our children were just diagnosed and we were trying to navigate,
And when you say children,
well, they were born in, well, my husband's son, so my stepson, CJ, was born in 1988 and diagnosed in 1992.
Okay.
And then our son together, Danny, was born in 1993 and diagnosed in 1994.
I was totally unaware that your husband Jim got, and tell us who Jim is, because he is a well-known figure.
Well, I'm very proud of my husband. He's much more humble, but I get to brag about him.
Okay, go ahead and brag.
So I went, and also while this was going on, we met and married in 1990, and he was pitching for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Okay.
And he had pitched for many years before that, so I caught him like the last 5 seasons of his major league career.
Okay.
And we were going, that was pretty crazy, going through the diagnostics and finding services.
So
So
CJ was how old at that time?
CJ was almost 3 when we got married.
Okay, and Danny is your son together.
Right, and he wasn't born until 93. Right. We married in 90.
And Danny was diagnosed at what age?
Pretty early, because by that time I had already been in many interventions and IEPs and learning that whole process in regional center, and I was pretty hyper vigilant about looking for signs.
Right. Okay. So now we've jumped back because I was asking you about Education Spectrum Inc., but let's just stay on this track for a minute and follow your family's journey and then your journey. So tell us then, I mean, what was life like? That must have been pretty chaotic. Your husband is Major League Baseball. He's in the big leagues. Mm-hmm. And you've got 2 kids on the spectrum. What was that like?
Well, there were 6 kids altogether, and I like to remind people that it's, you do spin a lot around the special needs, but there's, everybody has their needs in there. So it was like chaos on steroids. And but lots of love and the incredible team we had around us. That was, and to kind of tie it together, that was the birth of Education Spectrum, were these incredible women that I met, teachers and educational therapists that were helping us when we saw this gap, where an experience that I went through where there was no one there to guide me. We had an advocate and we had a service coordinator, all these little pieces, but there was really no one overseeing
the coach,
whole,
besides you.
The coach, and actually helping you through the day-to-day challenges of sleep and potty training and behaviors and just everything that goes along with it. So I know, jumping forward to today, which I'm going to explain to you, because here we are more than 20 years later, and these kids have aged out into adult services.
Danny is how old now?
Danny is 20, he'll be 24.
CJ
is 28.
Okay. And how are they doing?
They're doing great. They're very different, and their challenges are different. Some the same, some very different. CJ now lives in Pennsylvania with his mom, so Danny is here in California running Danny's farm.
And okay, just for a minute, tell us about Danny's farm, because that deserves a little bit of attention.
I can't not smile when I talk about Danny's farm. It's a labor of love. I heard you earlier in the segment talking about this hotel resort, and it's the same kind of thing. You've got to harness what your kid loves, and Danny has always had this tremendous affinity for animals and farm animals and petting zoos, and of course he'd sit on his computer all by himself and stay there if he had what he really wanted.
Right. But
he does love this. He really loves it. And we employ adults with disabilities, and we partnered with Cal Poly Pomona, and we are on the campus there, which is amazing with all these student volunteers. They've even created a Danny's Farm class on the curriculum in the ag department where students are trained to socialize the animals and volunteer at the farm. So it's just growing, and I mean it's amazing.
And I had the pleasure of actually going to meet you several years back and see it in action, and see Danny and some of the other teens, young adults, young people working with these animals, bringing them into a petting situation at a elementary school, and it was just so lovely. It was such a lovely experience.
It's every day is just a gift when you're doing this kind of work, and to so many, but really to our family, it's really
and
beautiful.
for a lot of people that would have been enough, like we've got Danny's Farm and that's all we're going to do, but instead you move off to Education Spectrum, and now you've got even a new program, Transitions. So talk to us a little bit about what exactly Education Spectrum Inc. does, and then talk to us about what the Transitions.
You got it. Well, Education Spectrum was born first in 1996. Danny's Farm was born in 2007. So Education Spectrum is a group of clinicians. Many of you might know Dr. Lori Stevens, and she's pretty well known as one of the best clinical psychologists specializing in autism, and so she does anything from diagnostics to just you name it. And they're amazing human beings, and we're vendored through Regional Center for many of our programs, and most recently we now have a program for young adults, and it's vendored, so really excited about that. So we provide, it's a center-based program, and we have a lot of social skills classes, community integration, just...
What ages?
Well, from birth, from diagnostics, to 25 is what we're vendored for, but we do have a few clients older who private pay, but we are now up to 25. We were up to 18 for many years, so I'm excited to bring on. It's tough to get a new program vendored today, so it just shows the need that it's, just because you turn 18, it doesn't mean you don't need any services.
Right.
So that's exciting. And more recently, Nancy said something kind of reminded me that when we met last time, I was saying that I was going to kind of slow down.
Yeah, that's what you told me. You said, I've done this Danny's Farm thing, and this has been great, and Jim was in Phoenix, and I'm going to go be a wife for a while.
Right. And
what happened to that, Kathy?
Well, life happened to that. And interestingly, it's such a cycle of life, because when I went through the experience of not having a coach and a navigation guide when the kids were beginning to get services, I went through this transition time when, in particular with Danny, when he turned 18. And I wasn't prepared for what I went through. And one thing that I don't think people are really addressing is the emotional, the grieving. I mean, I'm very open about this because I think it's something that we really need to talk to, is about just our own mental health issues as our kids are aging out. It taps I can only speak for myself, and whenever I share this, I hear such similar stories. So I know we're hitting on something big.
You are striking a nerve big time. My son's 15, just turning today is his birthday, and my husband died 9 months ago. And I have been petrified about what's going to happen to him.
It's paralyzing, really.
Paralyzed with fear. And Shannon will tell you, because she's been there with me, giving me emotional support. But if you think you don't know what's going to happen to your child if something happens to you, because I don't have a backup, and it's terrifying. And there are a lot of parents in my situation.
Well, I'll back up a second, because it's been a couple of years that I was introduced to this organization called ETA, E-T-T-A, and it's named after a woman named Etta. Her last name is Israel, but it has nothing to do with the state of Israel.
Okay.
Etta was a name of a woman who left her in her will that she wanted such a program to care for adults with developmental disabilities. And this is a bold statement, because as you can imagine, I've run across a lot of programs in and around Los Angeles, and this is leaps and bounds by far the most quality care I have ever seen. And once I gained the knowledge of what could be, I took a lot of my power back. I didn't feel so helpless, because for me, for my comfort, I need my ducks in order. I need a plan. I need to know if something happens to me, what's going to happen with Danny, and that gives me comfort.
Yeah.
So I fought through the pain and the sadness of, I mean, I'm just going to say it. You know, when Danny was 15 and I would see groups of adults at the mall, and, you know, I'd think like, oh, well, that's not going to be
not gonna
my
happen to
son.
me.
I mean, that is I'm ashamed a little to even say it out loud, but I think it's so important to just be real. And that is my Danny.
Yeah.
That is absolutely, those are his peeps, and that is our life. And of course, what's so important about grieving is coming to acceptance. And I am in full acceptance today.
Because so much of our early years, our children's early years, and our efforts are on recovering them. And we are sold that dream by so many people, and it's not possible for every child. It just isn't.
It's just, I shy away from that language.
They can all get better. We know that.
But the word recovery or cure, it just does not work for me.
And when that dream is shattered, it's devastating.
It is. And even with as evolved that I'd like to think that I am, and, you know, in tune with myself, this transition to adulthood, I would say, was equal, if not greater, in pain than the diagnosis. Because for me, it was on such a multiple level, like, oh my God, this is the rest of his life. Oh my God, I'm not gonna, your own mortality comes into play. And where is everyone? My school system is gone, and all these people that were surrounding us. Suddenly you get a new service coordinator that deals with transition age, and then you get another one. I mean, everything starts over. And I have special needs trusts and IHSS and SLS, and what are we going to do with this? And putting it all together and knowing what to do first. There is an order that you need to do things. There was no one there to guide me. Mm-hmm. I had to do my homework, and it was my full-time job for 2 years. And I am very happy to say that Danny lives in his own home with full-time supported living services. He works. He is an active member of the community. He volunteers at the Humane Society. He's learning at a pet store to work the cash register. I mean, his life is, he has a girlfriend, Spencer Hart, the opera singer. It is the sweetest.
It was Jill's birthday yesterday.
Yes, I love Jill. So Jill and I are planning the wedding. So
okay.
Anyway,
good.
Very
we'll be
excited. Jewish mother,
my son will want to be at he loves Spencer.
Yeah. Who doesn't? To get in line,
I know. He's 13, so I think he gets it that she's too old for him. But he loves her. He loves her.
So where does this leave? Okay, how can your experience now help others through what you're doing?
Well, first, what I'd like to do, if I can explain to you the reality of the numbers. I want you to all be, I want to educate you, if you will allow me for a moment.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we are not prepared as a community, and I am getting very active on a city, county, and state level to educate our legislative folks who can really make change, okay? So among the over 75,000 regional center clients with ASD, 80% are under 22 years of age and living with their parents, okay? The next few years will bring an unprecedented number of individuals with ASD and other developmental disabilities transitioning to independence. Nationally, an estimated 50,000 Americans with ASD will turn 18 each year. So, we all hear about this 1 in 10,000 went to 1 in 5,000 went, now it's 1 in 68 children. But this is what's happening in real numbers and what's going to be hitting our communities all over the country. I'm focused on Los Angeles because it's my home and where I love. So in California, the number of adult ASD regional center clients will more than triple during the next 3 years and will exceed 20,000 by the year 2018. Lastly, regional center, which serves only 20% of individuals. A lot of people don't qualify for regional center, so it's a much bigger population. We'll see a more than a 300% increase in the number of adults with autism spectrum disorder in the next decade. So let's be real. I mean, we are not prepared. Housing, higher education, and all the adaptation. I mean, what does it take for any of us to live a full and happy life and live to our fullest potential? Meaningful jobs, family, social connections.
A safe place to live, a roof over our head, food.
Right? Just from basics to, and the organization with which I'm working embraced what I'm getting across, that it can't go on like this. First of all, there's a bridge missing, because there are great programs out there, and there are a lot of entitlements for our kids that people like Harvey and Connie Lapin, who wrote the Lanterman Act with other great folks, and whose children with autism are my age. It's our turn to take the next step and really expand and educate, because there's no turning back. We're not going to be shipping off our kids with all the laws that are in place. They are our neighbors, they are our children, they are our nieces and nephews, they are our cousins, I don't need to go on, but the numbers speak for themselves, and this is real. So we created a program at ETA called Transitions, and it does just that in terms of connecting us all from transportation to jobs to on a very individualized, customized basis. And again, I'm reaching out to public entities so that we can not just do this on a private pay, really make this available countywide. So stay tuned for that, because my dear friend Catherine Barger just took Mike Antonovich's seat in the 5th District. Sheila Kuehl's office, another county supervisor, helped us with seed money for this program. So we're going to band together, and we're going to expand services countywide for our tender population, because it is growing, and we need to be there. I don't know. This is why I'm not with my husband in the Dominican this week, because I needed to be here today.
Yeah, you've got a mission. You've got a purpose and a calling.
And this is amazing. We're really out of time, but you've given a bunch of information, but we want to tell people where to go to get more information.
Okay.
So let's start with ETA and the Transitions program. Where do they go to?
Oh, great. The link. I don't know. Am I in the way?
There it is. Right
okay.
There.
Terrific. Well, that is the phone number to ETA, 818-985-3882, or the website eta.org has tons of information, and specifically you can just click on the Transitions link, and you'll be guided to the proper people. Education Spectrum, we're located in Altadena, and we also contract with several school districts doing training and for teachers and attending IEPs.
Okay.
So
for Danny's Farm?
Danny's Farm, at dannysfarm.org, lots of information. And Alec Baldwin bought us a truck and trailer.
Yes,
so we
I remember
can
that.
go anywhere in the county
Yes.
to the most neediest kids, and thanks to our amazing, generous donors, we have them sponsored many times. So reach out to us.
We love
That's
the
what we're
Baldwin
here
brothers.
for.
You know, they've helped out with Act Today, and Atticus and Stephen and Daniel.
Good,
love them.
good people.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank
I
you
mean,
so
we could
much.
talk for hours and hours and hours,
really
but you're such a role model in our community, and such admiration we have for you
Yes,
and the work you're doing.
absolutely.
Well,
Thank you.
it's mutual. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, Vince Redmond, licensed marriage and family therapist, is going to be joining us. So stick with us.
I am Alexis Weinman at the Future Horizons Super Conference in Dallas, Texas. It helped me in a way because it was a format that I was not used to. Like, I had never curled my hair before. I've never worn heels. I didn't know what foundation was. And it was just, it was a very, like, it helped me more in a business sense. Like, I know how to present myself in front of people now. That's something my mom drilled into my head. I have trouble sometimes with it. Like, you introduced yourself to me downstairs, and so I immediately, like, and I've heard of you before, so I was like, I know this person, I can make eye contact with this person. And if I'm talking to someone I don't know, or if I'm listening to someone give a speech, most of the time my head will be down. I don't look at people in the eye, but if it's someone I know I need to make eye contact with, I make eye contact. But my mom growing up, she, especially after the diagnosis, she would always like grab my hand if I was like, you know, looking everywhere else but her, and she'd like say, look me in the eye. And so she wouldn't let go of my hand until I looked her in the eye. I do feel like I have to do play poet because, you know, sometimes there'll be jokes I don't understand, but I'll laugh at anyway. There will be situations that I'm not comfortable with, but I'm going to have to play along anyway. And I think I just found out, like, I'm just a tremendously amazing liar. Like, I can pretend like I'm uncomfortable with something when in actuality I am screaming inside, or I know the moment I get back to my dorm room I'm going to start screaming or having a meltdown or something like that. But I also know that there is a time and a place because there isn't any safe rooms available in neurotypical society. Like, we have to make our own. And, you know, on a college campus, there's not many places you can go and scream without attracting attention. The way I explain it to people is, you know, people's brains like hamster wheels. Eventually, the hamster's got to take a break. Autistic brains aren't like that. They just keep going and going and going. So we can't stop thinking about things. There's, like, that's why a lot of kids with autism have sleep problems, because they can't fall asleep because they have too much on their brain. They can't sleep because they're thinking too much. And I think just the walking in circles, there's no thought to a circle. Like, it's just, like, so I'll just plug in my earphones so I can't hear anything else except whatever white noise I'm listening to, and I'll just walk in a circle. I think it's just like we are just as prevalent as men with autism. There might not be as many as there are boys, but we are still part of this movement. We're still part of this community, and we just got to remind people that, hey, you know, we're here too. You know, don't forget about us. One thing I've learned is that, first off, I'm not the only person who is speaking from their own perspective. Like, I feel like I go to some of these conferences and it's a bunch of doctors and a bunch of parents who want to talk and get to know what autism is about, but there's not a lot of people on the spectrum talking about it. And so I come to these and I see Temple Grandin, who's one of the biggest faces in the autism community, actually get up and talk about what helped her and what we need to do in order to get our kids out of society and not in our parents' basements. And so it's just kind of reaffirming, like, I'm not the only one. Thank you. Because I'd go to these and I would be the only one. I'd be next to a bunch of doctors and talking about words I have not even seen before, let alone pronounce. And I'm just sitting here like, I did a pageant once. So it's good to know, like, I'm speaking from a perspective of not necessarily overcoming, but learning to live with this, because I feel like not a lot of people come out and say what it's like to live on the autism spectrum. A lot of people talk about the struggles and everything like that, but they don't talk about, you know, what they've done to make their lives better while living on the spectrum.
So thrilled to be here. It's one of those days. We got a lot to do and not enough time.
Mornings.
Yes, but I do want to say we're welcoming Vince Redmond via Skype. He is licensed marriage family therapist, and I said, we needed that today. We just saw a clip with Alexis Weinman, and it reminded me that we need to send out a shout out. Alexis's mother just passed away, and so we want to give a shout out to her. But it feeds right into, we were going to talk about something else today, Vince, but we want to talk a little bit about grief today, because while a lot of people are feeling exhilarated, there's about 51% of the people in the United States who are feeling grief, and some of them are autism parents. Some of our autism parents are thrilled, and this is just the way of it, but we need some perspective, and we need to know how to talk to our kids about grief. So first of all, thank you for being with us, Vince.
No problem. My pleasure. Well, the first thing we need to do is everyone, we just need to take a deep breath and just breathe and remember everything will be all right. We know there, grief is a part of the process of life, not only the process of our journey through the autism spectrum, but just through life, right? We love and we lose, and that's part of the life cycle. And part of it is, what we've experienced going through the autism journey, where, started very early on, where we started grieving when we, received the diagnosis. And, and that continues throughout the journey in different phases and different parts. But the way we respond to it, the way we're able to maintain it and to be able to understand it is something that's, that we need to work with individually.
Absolutely. And so, it's hard enough for us as adults, and of course I'm thinking about all the different levels of grief. Nancy's been going through the grief of having lost her husband.
Sure.
And we find our ways to deal with that as adults, but then languaging that to our kids.
Right.
That's a whole other thing. And a lot of times, I think our kids are more resilient than we know, but we see it come out in behavior. Don't you think that that's the truth, that it all comes out in the behavior?
Yeah.
It does. And this is why we always say, we want to, always condone, communication. Now, the different levels of communication obviously are different per child, but we always want to make sure they feel comfortable, that there's an open space to talk, ask questions, open space to be able to cry and to be able to emote if they're upset and they need that release. That's something that we need to be able to give them to do. And sometimes that goes into sensory needs with kids. When they're grieving and they're going through an emotional process, biologically there's a lot going on in their bodies as well. We need to give them that time, give them that space to run and to climb and to release those energies. They might not be able to process it cognitively. They might not be able to process it, through language, but they can process it through their behaviors by getting a lot of that integration. And sometimes when something like that might happen, and we have a child that's nonverbal, we want to increase the amount of exercise, increase the amount of sensory release that they might be needing.
Yeah, did you want to add something to that?
Well, yeah, the problem is sometimes when you're in grief, you don't have the time to devote to some of these things. You're just literally on a treadmill and on a tightrope. And it's very difficult when you're in that process of grieving to take yourself out of it.
Well, and it makes it doubly difficult when the parents are grieving as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's different when the child's grieving or the adult has already come to grips with it and have already gone through their grieving process. But when the whole family's grieving, when the parents and the child are grieving, it's very true. It's hard to not only find the time, but also to be motivated sometimes to problem solve. What do we need to do for our kids to be able to, get them the right environment to be able to process, or at least the right activities to help them. And this is where other professional individuals are very helpful. So counselors, therapists, ABA agencies that can reach out and specifically work with the kids on some of these things. This is where we reach out to those professionals for support.
And I'm wondering too, if part of it is expectations. So much of our society, we just keep on going.
Yeah.
Right? And used to be back in the day, and in some cultures now still, when somebody passes away, there's a whole process of, there's this many days that you don't do something and there's this many days. A lot of employers now will give you 2 days off for a death in the family. And then it's like
Let me
business,
tell ya.
back to business as usual. I don't know how people do that.
Right.
And this expectation of, oh, you should be over it. Oh, you should be back doing all the things. And I think our kids pick up on that stuff is not okay. Even for people who say to me today, oh, my kid doesn't know anything about the election. I'm like, your kid is a barometer for everything we're all feeling. Everything we're feeling, we unknowingly, unwillingly hang it on our kids, and it comes out in them.
Sure.
And I think sometimes we just have this expectation of, oh, you're supposed to have it all together already, Nancy, that it's been 10 months.
Oh,
like it's all
without a
supposed
doubt,
to be.
without a doubt. I get that.
And that's not realistic.
Because other people go on with their lives and they forget that you've had your heart turned out, ripped out of your body and stomped on. They just don't know that.
Right, and they might not have ever experienced it. And again, it's being able to survive and being able to manage is different than being able to have processed everything, right? And I think as soon as, when we're dealing with a loved one that has grieved, a lot of the outsiders are looking at just the being able to maintain and being able to, continue their just daily functions, right? Job and eating and those kind of things. But that does not mean that the process is continue or is complete. And as Nancy was saying, that now you're even more alone because everyone's kind of gone back to their lives, and now everything's really setting in on the new reality of moving forward without that loved one, either obviously in Nancy's situation, her husband, and Wyatt's dad, but the process is the same for any loved one, a grandparent, a parent, a spouse, a family dog that the child might have been very close with. Right, and so when we're looking at that process, I think you both are 100% right. The process doesn't end for a long time, and just because they're able to maintain doesn't mean they're still not grieving.
So allow yourself permission for that process to go on.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And emote, cry,
Yeah.
be upset.
Yeah.
You take those moments where you can let it out, because that whole adage of keep it to yourself or it's okay, don't cry is very unhealthy. We need to let and give adults just as well as the kids opportunities to let it out.
All right, we thank you so much, Vince. Unfortunately, we're short on time today, but we will look forward to having you back next month.
And we'll talk about the holiday stress then.
Yes, we will do it. We will do it. So thank you so much for being with us, Vince.
No problem, ladies. I know you're up against the clock. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk next month.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you.
Vince.
Bye.
We're here at the end of the show, and we're not even going to take a break, but we have a very special thing to commemorate today.
It's Wyatt's birthday, and I had wanted to read something, but I can't connect here to Facebook, to the thing that I wanted to read, that I posted, for those that don't. But I do know the emotions. I do know what happened 15 years ago to me, and 15 years and 2 months ago. Last night, as I was sitting at 2 a.m., feeling a lot of despair, a lot of grief related to my husband's death, and a feeling of not feeling safe anymore in this country, not feeling hopeful. It took me back to the day I got a phone call on the 9/11 from the adoption center telling me that a new baby would be coming into the world. And we had given up on having a child. 2 months later, on 11/9, Wyatt Jackson was born. That picture you saw that Samantha put up is one of my favorites. Samantha, can you put that back up? It's a fairy tale. It was real for that moment. Fairy tales don't last. But I had it. And since that time, there has been so much love, so much loss, so much happiness, and heartbreak. But hope. Here's a recent photo of Wyatt crying over his dad. My friend Marcy captured it, another autism mom. I love this photo because it's real. It captures life in all of its messiness. Love, loss, heartbreak. And every night, almost every night, when my son goes outside and looks up into the stars and says, "Good night, Daddy, please come back from heaven," I want to take him in my arms. I want to take away his pain, but I can't. I can only try to keep him safe in an unsafe world. Celebrate him for who he is and who he isn't. Pray for the courage to love him unconditionally. And thank God for choosing me to be your mom. I am proud of you. I love you, my son, and nothing else matters.
And it's a very happy birthday for him. 15.
Yes.
15. He's a young man, and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But thank you for sharing all of that with us. It's an emotional day. So we're going to wish Wyatt a happy birthday. We're totally out of time. We've got an amazing show for you tomorrow. Our unicorn, Dr. Linda Copeland, is with us tomorrow. We're going to talk specifically about sleep issues and genetic issues with her. We've got an amazing guest in the morning. My brain has gone completely. No, we're talking, we have the head of Astra who's going to be with us tomorrow. They're the American, we're totally out of time. But we're going to be talking about an amazing initiative having to do with toys this weekend. It's your neighborhood toy store
Great.
day.
And toys and joy.
And yes. And we also have Bonnie Yates is going to be with us tomorrow to answer your legal questions. So it's a packed show, you guys. Until then, keep the faith. I'm sending you a hug for your kiddo and one for you.
And give yourselves one for me. And remember, hope is our favorite 4-letter word.
Bye-bye for
Bye-bye.
now.